Sometimes when you feel like creating an awesome custom blaster, you just have to get started. So I have a long shot here that is stock, and long shots make excellent bases for blasters. I have a front gun here which is non-functional, which is awesome. That's exactly what I want for this blaster. I found a long shot scope, which is cool, and I found my old modified Firefly, which is really neat. It's still getting excellent performance, and I'm going to be sad taking this one apart, but I feel like some things just have to be sacrificed in the name of progress. So without further ado, I'm gonna get to work. So creation is a funny thing, guys, because in order to create, sometimes you have to destroy first. So this is the remnants of the Firefly that I've carved off, and then I shaved off a large portion of the Longshot's back shell. I cut all of this, so I made a cut here, and then a cut here. You don't want to impact your trigger sled, but you needed to get rid of this because we're completely scrapping the stock. Then I came in and I meticulously shaved off all of these completely unnecessary ridges in the shell so that I had a little bit more room for my Firefly shell. And what I've got right now is currently, and I have a hand on it because I'm trying to keep the hot glue where it is so that it sets, but I have this really interesting futuristic looking shell, and I've managed to preserve two things, both of which that are very important to me. One, I've managed to preserve this battery compartment, and then two, this is the area where on the main Firefly shell it switches for that battery compartment, and I've managed to preserve that as well. So if this mod ends up needing any electronic components at any point, as I'm kind of winging it, then I have those already built in and they look super professional and they're really nice. So that's a major upside. But I really like the way that the shell is shaping up, and I'll just show you the next segment as I see fit. So now is as good a time as any to mention that I have added a Magnus to the front gun integration for this mod, and that the chalky finish on the long shot itself is due to the sanding that I've done. I've sanded it down from 120 grit to 180 grit, and now I'm going to give it a cold rinse in water because that is the most integral part to a solid paint job. Alright guys, so while this epoxy putty is setting and the other half of the blaster is drying, I'm going to come in and knock out the air restrictor. Now, I got really lucky on this plunger too because I took my drill bit, came in like this from the back, drilled it out. Then once this drilled out, I took a hammer and a large flathead screwdriver, and just it's as simple as coming in and tapping through each one of these tri-posts. Then once this came out, this just falls out. And with no air restrictor, all that's left is this dart peg down in there, and you could try to twist it out with needle nose pliers, but you'll leave the base. So the easiest thing that I've found to do is come in with, and this is just an ultra long Dremel bit. You can find these at Lowe's. They're pretty expensive, but once you've bought one, you can use it for every air restrictor and every dart tooth and every like post that you mod. So I just kind of line it up, keep my hands clear, and just go until it comes out. And that's such a clean removal there that all I have to do is come in with a flathead that's the right inner diameter and kind of clean up those edges, and everything will just knock out. And that is how I'm going to do this. I'll remove the dead space with my old school battle rifle internal hot glue style thing, and then I'm planning on adding a much thicker O-ring to the plunger, and I'm going to use one of Orange Modwork springs. They just have great long shot springs at this point. They have like 3 separate kinds, and I like to double the power in it. I'll go ahead and reinforce the bolt sled next, and then I'll be good to go start putting the blaster back together. So this is just a quick segment showing that these pieces have been sanded, primed, and are drying right now. I'm trying to get all the water off from their wash, while this main body piece is also drying after its third coat of Krylon Matte Black Fusion for plastics. I'm going to do the same paint job on this, and then I'll start working on all of the additional pieces that need to be fitted on. So this blaster is just ridiculous. The sheer scope of it and size of it and number of different pieces is insane. But I wanted to show that these pieces are being worked on right now. There's probably a much better way to paint a Magnus trigger than this, but I didn't care because it's taking so long already and I just wanted to paint everything at the same time, including my hands, apparently. But I want to let you guys know that I'm using Krylon Fusion for Plastic Satin Black, and I'm using Krylon Fusion for Plastic Gloss Blue, I guess. I think this is True Blue. Colors are pretty tricky for me, but I've used both of these paints before and they have worked out well. They are good, solid colors. And then over here I'm painting a Nerfomania style foregrip piece so that I can put that back together, because a long shot that's going to be this impressive and this nice needs to prime in a way that isn't ridiculous. So I'm making a shotgun foregrip for it. Alright. When doing a mod this unique and this special, it is important to realize that anything worth painting and spending this much time on is worth clear coating at least once, but I'm clear coating mine twice. I'm using Krylon's Color Master Acrylic Clear Cover Max, blah 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 blah. It's this can. It doesn't impact the color of your paint job, and if you start matte and then do this, you end up with something between matte and gloss. It's going to be shiny, but it's not going to be like vibrant. And I think that it looks really good. Unfortunately, you could see mostly how the finished blaster is going to come together, but I hope that I'll have a few tricks for you by the time it's modded and complete and put together. I'm going to work on the internals now. I might make a clip if I do anything special. So I wanted to make a segment showing that the long shot internals are finished. I have a felt pad here, and then this is the 2x Orange Modwork spring. In addition, the bolt sled has been reinforced, and I've removed all the dead space. You can see I did that with hot glue down in there, and then I came up and put 2-part epoxy on this last night so that it's a sealed air release hole. This is a perfect airtight breach insofar as the stock internals can go. And before I put that back together, because the main body blaster still needs its LED work done, I wanted to show that I'm working on getting the front gun back together and getting 2 separate blaster pieces that have their internals mounted on opposite sides is proving to be much more difficult than I thought it would be. These pieces are very tricky to get stable, and then this is obviously the modded Magnus, which is just a mess. I painted the trigger and that's laid back in. Everything else is more or less where it needs to be. Why I left this in, I have no idea, but it's not going to hurt anything, so I might as well store the extra piece there. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to try to get this blaster back together, and then the front gun should be pretty done. Okay, so the LED work is kind of a pain for multiple reasons. The first simple reason is that I have to have a hot glue gun, a Dremel, and a soldering gun all plugged in at the same time, and most outlets only have 2, so I have to go find my surge protector, which is just kind of an aside. But I've installed a switch here. This is some old, I want to say it's a Stampede switch, because the one that was attached to the board for the Firefly would not fit in the shell integration. So then I've come through and I've taken my Dremel and dremeled a hole in the shell so that I know I'm not going to impact my internals at any point. I'm trying to get all the way up front here to this grill. Now I made frosted acrylic plates by taking these, they're like trading card game top loaders, and I just cut them in half and sand both sides with a light sandpaper. So now I've got frosted vents here that I've got epoxied into place, and I'm going to take these leads and get them up here. The most important thing while you're working on a circuit like this constantly is to leave your switch in the on position, leave your batteries in, and constantly be testing at every point in your LED work, so that you know that when it finally goes together that everything's going to be good and functional. So these are ultra bright blue LEDs. I got these at Fry's. You could buy them online. They're not too terribly expensive. I think they're about $2 each, but they should be totally worth it to light up this vent. And with that said, I'm going to put the blaster back together. I've done the internals. Most pieces are finished at the time that I'm making this video, and I'm really, really excited to see it come together. Hey guys, sorry the bugs are really loud tonight, but the blaster is finished. It is the Night Fury CS Infinity, and after all the work that I put into it, I really wanted to show it off as soon as possible. So you can see here that the blaster, maybe if I pull it out into the light, there we go, that's a little bit better. So the blaster has a 25 dart drum with toothless mounted inside for giggles. The switch that controls the LEDs is back here. You can only sort of reach it with my little finger. The ultra bright blue LEDs turned out really nice. They're brighter in some places than others, but that's kind of the nature of the game. I like the way that they look through the vents. Up here we have lightning and death written in kind of runic, and I've also signed the blaster on both sides. Drac. There's a Fang signature down here on the shotgun foregrip. There aren't a ton of darts right now in the drum, but I'm really pleased with the blaster. When it's fully primed, you can come up here, operate the slide, push that forward. The blaster is 46 inches long, which by my calculation makes it the largest usable mod out there. When fully shouldered, I'm well over 6 feet tall, but I feel like you have to be about as tall as me to use it because I can barely reach this trigger mechanism up front to operate the Magnus portion of the blaster. But there's only one Mega Dart in there. I'm really happy with the blaster. And it's just an awesome piece. I spent a ton of time on it. It started as just kind of a how can I blend a Firefly and a long shot together, but the scope obviously just kind of breaks up this front heaviness and back heaviness. I've maintained the battery compartment on the Firefly side built into the Firefly stock, which has been reinforced with CPVC, which lets you prime straight through. I like that I still have the dart holders. This is obviously all solid now. I'm really pleased with the blaster. I think that the blue and silver is a nice accent for this kind of tactical black. I think that the shotgun foregrip turned out well, and I think the Magnus was the perfect integration. The blaster still comes apart, obviously, so that there are two separate halves. If you wanted to operate it as a rifle and a sidearm, you could. But overall, I'm just really pleased with the blaster. I like everything about it. I spent so much time tweaking it and getting everything right that it would be really sad if I didn't like the blaster. But all in all, I'm happy with it. This was a very complicated, very ambitious mod. I'm going to go ahead and cut to Draculina Vision just so you can see how large this blaster is in comparison to like the average nerfer. Alright guys, so the blaster is very large. It's almost impractically large, but you can see that with this primed and this out, I can fire my Magnus, I can reprime my Magnus, and then I can fire. But the blaster is almost comically large, but I think that it was still quite the success. I am just so happy with it. I think it turned out nice cosmetically and functionally, and I think that it's got a lot of things left to kind of show me as I use it for Humans vs. Zombies and continue tinkering with it. But as always, thanks for watching.